Hi everyone, it's Louise Pearson, come back to you with another video in my series of videos about when you're the one with a life-limiting illness. And this one's going to be about coping with the challenges of living alone. Before I begin, I do just like to outline for everyone that I am a mental health social worker myself. I've worked in the disability arena for 30 years. And then 4 years ago, I was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. I also had cancer as a baby when I had retinoblastoma and lost the sight in both eyes, or in fact lost both eyes. So, just to say that, yes, I work in the field, but I also do have lived experience. And for anyone who might be vision impaired watching this video, we also have the link to my website up there, which is www.louisepearson.com.au, because it has plenty of resources there for you too. So just so that you have the same information as everyone else. So I'm wanting to address this topic because after a diagnosis, living alone presents its own challenges. Often they'll take time to get your head around. And I think that's because so often in the beginning, we are overwhelmed with information. Depending on how we cope in these situations, we might feel like running away and not looking at anything, or we might read anything in sight, online, anywhere, books, you name it, we read it. Sometimes it can be difficult not having people around you to do this, or when you're doing this, to bounce ideas off and these sorts of things. Sometimes these challenges are not understood by those around us, and it's the reality, I guess, because most people live in couples or families or in housemate situations, and so there is at least what they're most familiar with, I guess, is living with other people. And so our circumstances don't always cross their minds as being different. We who are living alone then go home to the four silent walls around us. And sometimes that can mean comfort, but sometimes it can lead to difficulties. And the challenges that come with living alone can be both practical and emotional. So the practical challenges might include things like not having someone there to help you negotiate exhausting treatments and side effects. It would be lovely if we could all come home to a nice cooked meal, or our favourite foods, or a warm bed, whatever it is that helps us after a treatment. But when you live alone, that's not as easily achievable. I did have a friend stay over with me on my first night of having chemo, and I also had my parents live with me shortly after the Whipple surgery. But most of the time I've been alone, so these are some of the things that have happened for me. Getting help to medical appointments can be challenging if you can no longer drive, and it might be that you feel too exhausted to carry out daily tasks like cooking meals or vacuuming or ironing. But unfortunately, the dog doesn't seem to want to do those, and so they wait for you and pile up. Also, you might be worried about your other responsibilities. So the mortgage still may need to be paid. Your pets need looking after and need walks. You're needing to support family and friends as they come to terms with your diagnosis. And the emotional challenges, I guess, tie in there a little bit. But there's the need to have someone there to explore ideas with you as you're making decisions. Or also, often feeling isolated. While everyone else goes on with their lives, you can feel quite alone. And there might be a greater need to talk about what's going on for you than you usually experience. So you might actually have a lot more to say when you're going through these options and thinking about what to do next. You might also be frightened by the idea of your own mortality. And thinking about death is not an easy one. It's not an easy one to do with other people, but it's also not easy when you're alone. I guess the one thing I would say is that all of these challenges are normal and they happen to us all. I think that managing these challenges takes planning. So if you have a close friend, daily check-ins can be helpful for them and for you. And when I say check-ins, I actually mean phone calls. Texts can be good, but they're short, they're sweet. They tell you that someone's thinking of you, but they don't lead to in-depth conversations, or at least not in my generation. Um, I think it's really important to use a calendar or diary to plan for appointments and to note down arrangements that you've made. This is a challenging time, and although you might be someone like me who always thinks that she has a clear view of her own calendar for weeks ahead, we don't always, and we're making new and different types of appointments. So just having that sort of thing to help yourself can be a real support. When people offer help, consider accepting it. They're worried about you, they're wanting to do things, and you're needing support. So if it's someone that comes to walk the dogs, if it's someone that makes you a meal, it's one less thing that you have to think about. Someone taking you to appointments or offering to do a basket full of ironing. Ensure that when you see a doctor or begin a new treatment regime, you have a management plan in place for the side effects. Believe me, this is so important. I nearly died last year back in December because I had become dehydrated when I didn't realise that was the problem. And, it's after a new treatment, I had changed doctors. So it's really important that if you do something like that or you try something new, that you write down notes and you have a definite, okay, what do I need to do in this case of emergency? Write down contact numbers for weekends, any procedures that you need to follow, and, what would an emergency look like is a really good question to be asking. Also, use your energy productively when you have it. So it might be that, you enjoy your own cooking. We usually do when we live alone. And so cook some meals for the freezer that you like. Do some of the tasks that you've been meaning to get to. Because doing something productive can just buoy us up that little bit. I think it's also important to be kind to yourself. When you have a burst of energy, going back to pre-diagnosis interests can be reassuring. And I remember, I love reading and I love journal writing and those sorts of things. And when I first was diagnosed, I think I didn't read a book for a couple of months. I picked one up after a while, and usually I've got 3 on the go. And it felt so liberating because it was something about someone else's world that I didn't have to think too much about. Look into new options to get your emotions out, and I can't stress this enough. If you've never journaled, consider trying it. Write down anything that comes into your mind, and it'll soon get the emotions out. You might even, write poetry, write songs with the help of ChatGPT and an app called Suno, which is what I use. And, I've written a lot about my cancer. I think I've now produced 4 albums on Spotify and Apple Music. It might only be me looking up Louise Kate, but I'm looking me up. One of my best friends has done the same thing, and she's got about 8 albums out. She's a carer. You can look her up as Siren Serenade and find a lot out about her ways of coping with these situations. Remember, these strategies only need to work in the moment. So you don't have to finish that journal entry. You don't have to finish that poem. But if it helped for today, then it's worth it. Talk to a close friend. I can't tell you how important my friends have been in this whole situation, and each of them are important in their own way. He or she may benefit from honesty, and being able to talk about their fears too. Look into support groups. PanCare, for example, if you have pancreatic cancer, Facebook groups. I've started one called Pancreatic Cancer for Australia and New Zealand. Have a look at that. There's all sorts of support out there just by typing in the names of your illness. And also explore options for counselling. Remember, it's all about the relationship. So, there are end-of-life counsellors. There are counsellors through your local palliative care service. There are crisis lines. And you may have seen someone before in the past. You don't need someone who specialises necessarily, but you do need someone who makes you feel special, makes you feel heard. And that will help incredibly, I think. Remember that it takes a village to manage these challenges. So consider setting up a group for family and friends on a platform like WhatsApp or Signal. It will allow you to update them on how you're going and often when you don't need help. But it also means that you can ask for help should you need to. You can put it out there that you have an appointment on such and such a date and that you'd like someone to take you. You can ask for all sorts of support. Consider having something like an Apple Watch or another personal alarm which can detect falls and which you can activate if you need to. And last year, my Apple Watch saved me when I finally called my brother for some help. I wasn't making sense and he had help here immediately. Getting your affairs into order will be particularly important. And I know I've talked about this on other videos, but I think being prepared helps. And when you live alone, it's only your stuff that needs to be parcelled out. So you can't sort of say, oh, well, I'll leave that to my partner. They can decide what to do with it. Consider a platform like criticalinfo.com.au because there you can write out lots of instructions. Revise your will if you need to about the sorts of things that you want done. Getting powers of attorney, financial and medical are very good idea. But also so are things like writing a who gets what list. So I've done that and put first option, second option, and the second option might be the Salvo's shop or St. Vinny's, but I'm offering things to friends who I think might need it or might be interested. Look into advanced care directives because they will ensure that as things change for you, if they're going to change for you, and that's what it implies if we have a life-limiting illness, then you've written your instructions out about what you want done and when and how much support you want at the end. And talking openly to close friends has worked for me with all of these situations. My closest friends know exactly what I want and who I want to be there and those sorts of things. And, they give me a sense of feeling like I'm in control. I'm hoping you found this video helpful. If you have, consider pressing the like button and subscribe to my channel so that you'll hear about more videos as they come available.